Hi, I'm Tony and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today on the art supplies on a budget series, we're going to do colouring pens or felt tips, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, we've got quite a lot this time in comparison to the three. So I'm going to take my jacket off so I don't get it everywhere. So yeah, we've got a lot of choices so it can be that little bit more critical and give you a bit more option. So I'm going to be using this Diablo from last time since I don't use it when I draw very often. So I'm going to use this one to be starting. So yeah, just so we get a vague idea of what they look like as and when we're drawing and like colouring in. So the first one we're going to start off with are the ones I use on stream. For people who watch me on Twitch, my link is in my bio. I'm sorry for the plug. But these are our pro markers, which are permanent twin tip pro markers. These for a pack of 6 are about £10.50 on Amazon UK. So yeah, they can be more expensive depending on where you're going. But yeah, I really like these. So they come obviously in a twin tip. So they have the thinner end and then they have the thicker end as well. I find these have a really kind of pen-like nib. So they're quite stiff nibs. So when you write, they're very accurate to where you're going. They colour really nicely and they blend in. So you don't get those awful marks, you know, with some felt tips where you can tell where you've joined. And then obviously this is there. Like, it's basically seamless, which is obviously always ideal. Again, just to prove it's not just that one marker. Got that one. Again, these are ones I already owned, so they might be a little bit faded, but yeah. Obviously with that seamless kind of bit other than where the colours are. So yeah, these are the pro markers. These ones I would arguably say are fairly expensive for what they are. They're really, really good quality. Again, they are £10.50 for a pack of 6. And they do come in such a wide variety of colour, and there is a lot of options. But yeah, they are the pro markers. I will just put next to it so when we are comparing them later. There we go, we'll put that there. Just leave that off. Okay, so they are the pro markers. Let's move them up there. Next ones that I also use on stream are these Spectrum Noirs. Spectrum Noirs are slightly cheaper than pro markers. I would arguably say they're just as good, if not slightly better. And these for a pack of 12 are £17.93 on Amazon UK. Again, there's a really good variety of colour. Unlike the pro markers though, they come with like the letters on the bottom as preference to the words, as you'll see on pro markers. Like you can see the colours on them. It's written, whereas on that it's just the letters and a number. So this one, that was a really bad example. This one's obviously dying. Let me just grab another one for you. I have had these ones for a while. So there we go. That is that end, and there is this end. So a question I get asked a lot, again, it's another seamless one, is what's the difference between Spectrum Noir and pro markers? I think it is completely down to the nib and the price range. Again, it's another seamless kind of one. These nibs are a bit more brush-like as in comparison to pen-like, so the nibs aren't as stiff. The only problem is, depending on what paper you're using, they can be somewhat problematic, because these and pro markers can go through quite thin paper, and that will then obviously ruin the rest of the book, which is kind of counterproductive. So, but if you're doing art and you have good quality paper, I use 170 gram paper. If you're using the same, then yeah, these are completely fine. So they are Spectrum Noir. Now we're going on to some more kind of less arty pens and more felt tip based. So these are some that I found today. These are called Papermate Flare, and honestly, the name is just really whoo. So these are the Tropical Vacation, and these come to £5.96 on Amazon UK. I've never used these, despite the fact they're open. I've never used them. I was kind of making sure they were all right earlier, but these are a brand new one for me. They feel really nice. Like the hold of them is really smooth. I like the nib. Obviously, they are only single nib, not double nib. So if you are wanting to do bigger areas, it will take a lot more. These are weird. These feel like very felt tippy. They're quite stiff to use as a pen. Like in a felt tip, I like that like more brushy feel. But these ones are quite stiff. Like, I don't know, they're more pen-like than brush-like at the end. But obviously, I don't know, the colours are amazing. And as a felt tip, I think they're really good. But for 6, they are £5.96, as I said, so about £1 each per pen. But I mean, they're pretty good. I find them a bit scratchy and more like crayon-like in comparison to like other felt tips I've used. But yeah, they don't feel cheap. They feel more like a pencil rather than a pen. And I mean, fair enough. Like, if that's what you like, why not? But again, they are really good in colour. They are very vibrant. I maybe wouldn't use them in some of my artwork, but if I'm just using a colouring book, why not? Again, it kind of depends on what your price range is. Next one we have is, I call them Staedtler. I'm sorry if that's not how you say it. Staedtlers. I love Staedtler colouring pencils, as we'll talk about in a future video, but these are Staedtlers. Staedtlers, the Tri Plus colours, which are what these ones are, for 10, they're either £5.90 on Amazon UK or £7.87 on Rhino Stationery. So yeah, it kind of depends on if you use Amazon, I guess. But yeah, instantly, it's a very similar kind of nib to what we've just seen with the flare. Oh, that feels so much nicer. It's more brush-like, and like just comparing the colour, for me, that seems a lot smoother in comparison to what we saw with the to what we saw from the Papermate flare. We'll just give it another one just in case it was like a fluke. But no, yeah, no, these feel so much nicer. These are probably my favourite colouring pens. Again, I've never used these, but even just like the triangle, the prism like grip for it is just amazing. It sits so comfortably. Again, they're not the same kind of level as the Spectrum or the Pro, but they are, I would arguably say, a lot better than the Flare. So yeah, they so far are probably one of my favourites. Just move these out of the way so we don't go losing everything and causing complete carnage. These ones are my next. We're just kind of whizzing through these, but I'll do a bit more of a synopsis at the end. These ones are erasable colouring pens. So again, depending on what you want, these ones are Pilot Friction Colours or Colour Frictions. And these ones are £10 and 7p on Amazon. These ones my mum found. So, you know, I've never used them, as you can see, completely sealed pack. My mum loves stationery, so she has a lot of it. So some of it she already had, and I'm just breaking them in for her. What can I say? I'm a good daughter like that. So we're going to try this one. Let's see what these are like as erasable ones for sure. So yeah, again, pretty strange looking nib, but it's a, see again, that's quite a stiff nib, more like a pencil instead of a pen, but we're gonna have to try this out. Oh yeah, no. And the eraser again. The eraser, rubber, whatever you want to call it, again, not the best. Colour-wise, they're okay. But I don't know, they're not as brush-like as I personally like. They seem a bit washy in colour. As in, like, they look very water-based. I'm not sure if I like that. But, I mean, again, they are supposedly erasable. So, depending on what you want, I guess. But they're not my... I wouldn't say they was as good as the Stiablo. The Stiablo, I'd say they were probably on point. On point. Yeah, on point with the Flare. I'd say they're very, very similar pens. These ones I am very excited to try. Fibrocolor Magic pens. These ones I think I had a very similar type as a kid. And these ones, they're so good. These are £8.95 on Amazon. And they're just magic. So we get a pen. Standard magic pen. I think that we need the colour changer marker. So, love this. Look at that. It's a very broad nib. So if you're doing fine lines, maybe not the best pen. Okay, that's a really nice felt tip. It's just a standard felt tip, to be fair. And then you use the colour changer. I love it. It's like magic. Obviously you need to use the white pen at the end. Let's try a different colour to see what happens. Use this one. Again, that's a really nice purple, actually, to be fair. Oh wow, okay, these are probably my favourite on the principle they change colour, and they're a nice felt tip. They feel really nice, and I think, to be fair, for the amount they cost, they are not bad. But not bad at all. Especially if you want that, like, magic moment, you know, with them. But yeah, Fibre Magic. definitely worth a look at. If you've got kids, they might be great. But again, only if really you're doing those thin lines because of that nib. But that in itself is kind of cool. They are, yeah, fiber. Yeah, they were kind of cool. I like them. Again, they were only £8.95 on Amazon. Depending on what you want. I mean, in that pack, there were 9 colours and 1 colour changer. So, yeah. Okay, now we're going on to some own brands. This is a Wilko brand. I don't know if any of my US viewers, you guys have Wilko, but these are the fine tip markers. These were £1 for all 14. I'm not expecting miracles, in all honesty. But I mean, I've never had any issues with own brands, really. Oh, wow, actually. Actually, I might have spoken too soon. These are actually really nice. I mean, I'm not a fan of the packaging. But that's like a minor. They feel very brush-like. Let's check the back of the paper. No, the only ones we've had like bleed through are from them too. But no, these are really nice pens actually. Like really, really nice pens. Especially for £1 for 14. These, some of the best pens so far. So I'll put Wilko. Wilko 1, and that will make sense in a second. They're really nice pens. Highly recommend if there's a Wilko near you and you want them. Definitely. Especially if you're doing like just general colouring and you haven't got a lot of money to spend on colour or pens of any description. These might be worth considering. And these, serious contender. Serious contender. I also got these from Wilko. These are the thick and thin markers. So a bit like the Pro Marker where there was a thick one and a thin one. These aren't quite that extreme, and you probably have kind of variations of these in all own brands. But again, these were £1 for the 12 that are in this box. We'll just pick, we'll go for this one. We'll see what it's like. So we'll do the thin one first. Oh, instantly I'm not as keen. I'm finding the nib a bit too stiff for me. And I know someone in the comments is going to put something about the fact of the amount of times I'm saying that word. But for me, if I'm using a colouring pen or a felt tip, I want it to be more brush-like. And that's just a personal preference. If you like the feel of a pen, then by all means, these might be for you. But personally, I don't think these are as good as the other Wilko ones. Which, I don't know, they just seem to flow nicer. And even just looking at them, like the colour difference. Like they are vibrant, don't get me wrong. But just the blending of it just looks so much better to me. Again, if you disagree, you disagree. But to me, that personally looks a lot nicer. Okay. Then we're going on to a well-known brand, which is Crayola. They have them all over the world. These are the super tips, and they're washable, which again, always ideal again if you have children. And they're thin and thick draw, which is cool. I was going to get the other ones that they had, like the toddler range, because again, I am secretly about that age. When it comes to, oh, I broke the box. There we go. Well done. Already going so well. What is going on? Okay, so we'll just pick 2 colours out of here. I remember having these growing up, like at school. So, yeah, obviously they've got a thin tip if you're doing that. A very thin tip, and then they've got that. I mean, then again, they are quite a stiff pen. They are very good quality, and they're not as scratchy as the other ones that felt more pen-like. But I wouldn't say, personally, these would be my first choice. Yeah, but for these were £2.50 from Wilko, and you get all 12 for £2.50. So they're a little bit more expensive than the own brands, but I wouldn't say they were super expensive in comparison to some of the other ones that we've tried today. So I'll just put that one up there. We'll put these ones as Crayola under here. I'm going to spell Crayola wrong. There we go. Spell Crayola wrong and see what happens. And then we've got the cheapest pack that I have. And these ones were £4.99 from Asda or Walmart. And these are their own. These are the super markers. Super markers. And they are 64 pens in this pack. So it comes under just about 70, 0.7 something pence a pen. Which is ridiculous. I've just got to get in the thing. It's a lot of pens for a relatively good price. There is a lot of packaging that could possibly go to waste. If that's something that concerns you, I'm just going to pick 2 pens at random. I'll go for these 2. But yeah, this is an own brand again, much like Wilko's, slightly more slightly cheaper than Wilko's. It reminds me of the Crayola nib. So, again, with that super thin. These feel a lot like the Wilko brand. Not the Wilko brand, a lot like Crayola. With that feel, the same thickness. Yeah, these are basically the same as Crayola. So instead of maybe buying Crayola, if you want to save a bit of money, I would say invest in these. This as the 64 pack. Honestly, you get a lot more pens for your money. So you'd only get 24 pens with the super tip Crayola, whereas these you get 64 for a $5. Honestly, better bargain of the day. And I forgot part of the plastic. Damn. Let's try and put that back in. So yeah, I think we had some really surprising results there. Obviously, let me know which one you think is the best pen down below from obviously your preferences. Personally, I like a more brush-like felt tip in comparison to a pen-like felt tip, if that makes sense. I like the smoothness. I would say that if you were more a pen kind of gal or guy or these are definitely worth considering. These, I would say, are exactly the same as the super tip Crayolas. Obviously you get a lot more for your money, and that's always ideal. That's what you're looking for in this series, and I would say they feel exactly the same. They are just branded. But definitely the Asda Supermarket 64 pack, 10 out of 10 would use again. Then again, Crayola, if you want that brand, that is entirely down to you, but I wouldn't say there was much difference between the Asda and the Crayola. Again, very similar with the Papermate. I like Papermate pens. I'm a massive fan. But as you can see from the flare, I wasn't too keen on that. They were more like writing pens that you'd use as preference to a felt tip. And I felt exactly the same way as the Pilot pens. Let me just see if I can find them. Yeah, I felt these were very similar in that kind of way. I found them a bit scratchy. So when I was writing, they were a bit scratchy. And they also didn't kind of feel like a felt tip to me. They were more like pens you'd write with, or things that you were doing as like an outline instead of kind of a felt tip. But again, they don't bleed through the paper, so there is that kind of aspect to consider depending on what you want. But yeah, they are like a fine liner, a bit more like a fine liner in my opinion, rather than a felt tip. Obviously we're going to go around. These ones are just cool. Obviously the Magic, these were just cool pens, you know. If you're looking for that thing that's like a little bit quirky, again, they are a little bit more expensive because of what they are. They are that quirky pen, and you know, they are kind of cool though. You know, you could draw something and then you could go back in with like the color changing marker and you could add that design. And I really think that's kind of cool. Instead of having to like keep swapping kind of felt tip pens, and you could get that a little bit more detail. So, you know, and I also just love the novelty factor of it. So yeah, these 10 out of 10, highly recommend. Yeah, these are just cool pens. Obviously, I wasn't a huge fan in these. If you are going to Wilko, you know, I would probably avoid these personally unless you like that pen vibe. But yeah, they're just kind of a standard. They feel like a cheap pen. And if that's not what you want, maybe not for you. I would instead go for these. But obviously, if you like that pen vibe, maybe invest the whole £1 in these. But personally, I'd invest £1 in these. You do get more pens, which is always a bonus. You get 2 more pens. In addition to that, they do feel just a lot nicer to hold. I would say these two feel very similar to use. So they do feel very, very similar to use. And there is a considerable price difference. So these are £1, and obviously the Staedtlers are kind of £6 to £8, depending on like the pack sizing that you get. This is the only size they do in these. They do kind of boxes, but they are different again. They'd be more pen-like in comparison to these, which are obviously £6 to £8. These are a whole £1. So there's kind of like £5 to £6 difference, depending on kind of what you want. But I love these. I would use these very happily. No snobbery involved. Whereas obviously if you want that brand, again, this probably isn't the series for you because we're kind of trying to debunk that. But I mean, Staedtler pens are always a solid choice. And I love their colouring pencils, which again is a different video. But yeah, these two, I would say, again, are a bit on par. And then we've obviously got the difference between more arty pens. If you like the artwork that I do on my Twitch, again, do go check that out, or on my social media. Again, all my links will be in my bio. You have obviously got your Spectrum Noirs and you've got your Pro markers. There are other brands out there I personally don't use, mainly because these are the easiest two for me to get hold of. These are more expensive, and I do sometimes find they are a bit too pen-like for me. So they are very stiff to use. They do run out quite easily. And they do have a tendency to leak. So it wouldn't be the first time when I've opened my like massive pencil case and I've had like one or two of them leak and it'd be covered in ink. Whereas I've never had that issue with these. It was unfortunate, obviously the one I picked out had kind of died, but you know, that's the way it is. But yeah, these are just as good as these. And they are cheaper, not by loads, but they are obviously cheaper by about a couple of quid. And I do find them more brush-like, which again, as I keep saying, is something I find as a preference. So yeah, it is all about what you like in a pen. And I am happy to answer kind of questions and stuff down below in the comments. But yeah, personally, I would go Spectrum Noirs. That's just a personal preference. So the ones I'd recommend if you were kind of wanting to take away from that as a brush kind of type of thing, I would use a Spectrum Noir. I would use the Wilko own brand 14 fine tip markers. Or equally, you could use these, but they are more expensive. But again, they're fine for the whole pound that you're going to spend on them. I would invest possibly in some magic ones. Again, just because they're cool and you can get that bit more detail because of that magic bit behind it with the magic pen. And last but by no means least, I would use the Super Pack from Asda, because again, they are exactly the same as Crayola, and that's how I feel like they feel. And I would say these are perfect. You wouldn't need to keep going back and spending a fortune on felt tips. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Next week we will have another video around possibly pencils or colouring pencils. But in the meantime, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands and all that jazz. And I will see you very soon. Thank you guys. Bye.